Steve Zrike here, Superintendent of Schools in Salem. Welcome to my first show that we will be doing regularly. I'm so happy that you've joined us and hope that you will join us for the many segments that we'll be doing over the coming weeks and months. I'm very pleased today to be joined by Elizabeth Pauley, our Assistant Superintendent for Finance and Operation, who's going to give us some really important information about the future of the Salem High School building project. Hello, Salem. My name is Steve Zrike, the Superintendent of Schools. Really happy to be here. The first episode of a superintendent show where we can share some information about what's happening in the Salem Public Schools, give you some updates, provide you with some valuable upcoming information about the coming weeks and months. And I'm excited here today. I'm joined by a special guest, one of my colleagues, Elizabeth Pauley, who is the Assistant Superintendent of Schools for Finance and Operations in the Salem Public Schools. And this is her first year in the Salem Public Schools. Maybe you could just give us a little background and how you found your way to the Salem Public Schools.
Well, sure. Thanks. I'm delighted to be here and happy to be here for the inaugural episode of the Superintendent Show. I grew up on the North Shore. I'm from Ipswich, but my roots are in Salem. My mom grew up in Salem, and my grandmother and grandfather both also grew up in Salem. In fact, all my roots come back to Salem, so happy to have joined the schools and be helping where I can.
That's great. Well, we're happy to have you here, and obviously all roads lead back to Salem. So,
That's right.
So we're here today to talk about a really important topic. We just before the holiday break in December, we learned some really exciting news in Salem that we were accepted into eligibility for a new facility at the Salem High School site, a new building, new construction over the period of the next 5 to 7 years. As long as the support was there from the community or is there from the community. We'll talk a little more about that. But it's significant to be accepted into the reimbursement program through the Massachusetts School Building Authority, or known as the MSBA. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that process, what it means, and give you our best understanding, because it is a long process that has many different complexities, and we often get questions about it. So we thought it was important to come share with the public a little more information so you were aware of what's upcoming related to the project, and to try to answer some of the questions that we're getting pretty regularly. So Elizabeth is here to help explain that to all of you. And so the first question is, What is this MSBA? You know, this Massachusetts School Building Authority. Why do people have to apply to them in order to receive support for a new facility of any kind?
Well, it's a good question. The MSBA is a quasi-experimental agency that partners with municipalities to build new school buildings. And it's a competitive process. They run 2 programs. One is called the Accelerated Repair. That's not what we're talking about. That's a program if you need a new boiler or if you need a new roof. We're talking about the core program, which is when MSBA, through this competitive process, selects communities that want to build or rebuild or significantly improve their existing school buildings. It's exciting to be partnering with them because they're committed to sustainable building, they're committed to finding affordable ways to build, and critically, they will reimburse communities for the price of a building. So the reimbursement rates vary, but they range from 30% to 80%. So a partnership with the MSBA means we not only have expert partners who've done this before, who know what it takes, who know how long it takes, we also have a partner that will reimburse us for hopefully the lion's share of our costs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a great support to have through the process. I know that when I arrived in Salem, people had talked to me about, or had mentioned that we or the Salem Public Schools had applied for close to 15 years for a new facility. They had been working on different applications and had been denied all through multiple times. Why the need for the new building? What's the drive to have a new facility at that Salem High School site? Is it really in bad enough shape that we would need to do a whole new construction project? And why that urgency on the part of this community for many years?
Yeah. Well, I'm biased, and I think there are parts of Salem High School that are absolutely spectacular. But the building itself was built in 1976, and parts of it have been renovated since then, but parts of it haven't. So I think what helped us make our case to the MSBA was we have wiring that is in very poor condition. We have HVAC, both heating and air conditioning, where the systems don't talk to each other, and many of the systems are broken. And if anyone has spent any time in the auditorium, they know there's really no heat in the auditorium.
Yeah, right.
So there's those issues. There are safety issues. There's not sprinklers as many sprinklers in all of the building as we would want to see. The ventilation isn't great. So the infrastructure in some parts of the building goes well beyond, a leaky roof, although we also have leaks in certain places. But I think the more compelling reason probably was that the space that we have was built for learning in 1976. And it's limiting some of the coursework that we want to be offering to our students and that we think we owe that you think we owe our students. Our career and technical education spaces aren't big enough. We have huge demand for hands-on career-oriented learning. Our electrical systems can't sustain, all the plugs for the medical assisting program, for example. We don't have room in our carpentry spaces. So I think if we want to deliver the kind of education that our kids deserve, our building is holding us back.
Yeah, no question. I mean, not to mention science labs as well. Having gas that's works on a regular basis. Our young people, as you mentioned, deserve the best, and we've seen other communities over the course of the last 20 to 30 years get state-of-the-art high schools, and that's transformed the experience. Not that the building is the only part of the experience, but it's an important part of the building in terms of being able to do the kinds of learning that you just described. So absolutely, our young people have deserved it in Salem, and it will be a game changer for us as a community. It's been, I think I was born in 1976, not trying to date myself here.
Wow.
A lot has changed, I think, since that time. So, a little bit, if you could shed a little more light on the timelines and the milestones, like what does this process entail? I had mentioned 5 to 7 years, and there, obviously that seems like a long time, but there's a reason for it, and there's a series of steps and progressions. So, I mean, it would be good, I think, for the public to have a sense of what they can expect over that period of time.
For sure. I mean, it is a process, and it is a major commitment our community is making around, what we want for our students and who we are. So we applied last spring to the MSBA. They did due diligence in communities across the state last summer and fall, and in December they invited us into the process. So for us, the first phase will actually start in May. So technically we haven't really started yet. That's when eligibility starts, and that's a 270-day time, so it'll take us from May through January of 2024, where we will take a hard look at what we're committing to and acknowledge we understand that this is a major project, that we are full partners with MSBA. We'll share some information with them about our facilities so they can really begin to understand the whole breadth of all of our facilities. We'll send them our maintenance plans and how we take care of the facilities in our charge. And we'll establish a building committee that will help inform the process as we go along. The last thing we have to do in this very first phase is we have to commit some dollars to fund the design process. So first is eligibility, and once we do that and our city council votes to say, yes, we're in and we appropriate some money for design, we move into the second phase, which is really defining the scope. So that's where we'll dig deep into what grades should be in this building, what offerings do we want in this building, how will we have CTE and academic programs coexisting in the building. So that's in phase 2, where we're designing and really thinking about what's feasible, what's possible. We'll have an owner's project manager, we'll have a partner in the MSBA, and we'll start to really build out plans. Together, eligibility and design will take us about 3 years. And so we then move into bidding and finding construction partners, and we hope construction will start in about 2027. So assuming it takes 2 to 3 years to build a new building, we're looking at 2030. But there'll be so many steps along the way where we can make sure we're planning for the space that we need, we're offering the programs that the community wants for the students in these schools, and all the way we're looking at what is affordable, what is sustainable, and what is energy efficient.
Yeah, you mentioned you mentioned the grade configurations, right? And there's been a lot of discussion. I often get that question. What grades will be in this new building? We've heard high school, we've heard middle school and high school, 7 to 12, 6 to 12, 8 to 12. Like, how does that get decided, and when will that be decided?
Yeah, I think we're in such a fortunate position because we get the privilege of asking the questions about what will be best for all of our students. It's really tempting to want to put all of our students in this future beautiful new building. And so one consideration will be, how many students can we offer this opportunity to be in this state-of-the-art school? But before we even get to that space, we have to look at who are our students, how many students, what is the community looking for, how can we offer sports, academics, career, hands-on learning to the greatest number of our students. So the school building committee will weigh in on that. Of course, the school committee will lead that conversation in partnership with the community. But we're at least a year away from having to design that, decide that, because in the design process, we'll take a hard look. We'll study as part of our feasibility study with the MSBA. Does 6 through 12 make sense for Salem? Does 7 through 12 make sense for Salem? Does 9 through 12? Lots of communities have asked that question, and they've all answered it in a way that's the right way for them.
Yeah, and I do think that piece of really studying what what 21st century education looks like, both right now, and then you have to project decades out, right? Because this building has to last the test of some time, right? It's going to be important to look at different models across the country, across the state of Massachusetts, and really involve our community in those discussions, right?
Yeah,
because it's
absolutely.
students, parents, community members, future parents. That this is a building that is not just about use for the Salem Public Schools. It's use for this entire community, and should be forward-thinking as we look at preparing young people for college, career, citizenship beyond the time, beyond their time in the Salem Public Schools. It's to give them choices, and we want a facility to match sort of our vision, our values as a school system.
Absolutely. And, I've heard you talk about this as a statement of our values. This building will be a manifestation that will, I think, have implications for every kid and every school in Salem Public Schools.
Right.
So it's an exciting opportunity.
Right. Yeah, and it also, it also gives us an opportunity to look at rethinking our other spaces, because we are also really committed to early childhood here. And so it's an opportunity for us to look at how to utilize all our facilities in a way that maximizes the impact for our families here in the city. So do we want to have an early childhood center? Does by building a new facility at Salem High allow us to do some reorganization in a way that adds value to the educational experience for young people? Right now we're renting space in the mall for for Salem Prep and New Liberty. Does this give us an opportunity to bring those schools back into our portfolio in a building that we own? I think those are all really important questions that I'm guessing will be part of, not I'm guessing, I know need to be a part of these conversations in the coming years.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So, people always ask the question, how's this being paid? So you mentioned some reimbursement, right? Anywhere from 30% to 80%, and that depends on there's a formula depending on socioeconomic levels in the community and this community's ability to pay. But obviously that's not 100%, whatever it is. So
Right.
how does that work?
Yeah, well, it will work with a close partnership with the city. I mean, this is a really big project for all of us and for everyone who lives in Salem to think about this commitment. New schools come with a hefty price tag, and I can't say enough, that's why this partnership with the MSBA, well, one of the reasons why this partnership will be so helpful to us. But Salem will finance the building construction costs that we are responsible for. We'll know as we get deeper into the process how much the MSBA will reimburse us for. And like you said, that's based on a whole host of factors, including the community wealth, the population of students, and lots of other things. But at the end of the day, Salem will be financing some of the cost of this, and so we'll look at its borrowing capacity, its bond status. That will come in a few years. That's not an immediate thing, but it is certainly a consideration.
When we did apply for entry into this eligibility process, we did have to get support from the school committee and the city council. So there was a commitment. It doesn't mean that there's a commitment all the way through,
Right.
but it did mean that there was an interest by elected officials in this community that they felt like this was an important investment. So we're grateful for any support we get for this project from the city. We do know it's the last time there was a new building in Salem, I believe it was 2001 with Bowditch School, but some of the historians can correct me if I'm wrong. But that's a long time. It's over 20 years since there's been a new facility, school facility for children. Although Salem's done a really good job of investing in doing some remodeling in some of their school renovations, upgrades, maintenance in many of our buildings over the last 2 decades. But this is an opportunity for new construction, which is something that we haven't seen in a while here.
Right.
So, and more to come on this, but we really do appreciate the generosity of the community and the commitment to its young people that they've already shown at this point.
Absolutely.
How can the public and community members get involved in the process? I think you mentioned some ways already, but it'd be good to kind of underscore ways that community members from the Salem Public Schools and the city of Salem at large can get involved in this process.
Yeah, there will be many ways over the next 7 years to engage with the process. First, for people who are interested in learning more, we don't yet have, but we will have, a place on our website where we're providing regular updates. So once we really start the project in May, we'll be providing regular updates through all of our ongoing communication, our website, the newsletters you send home. For people who are looking to be more engaged, there'll be surveys and focus groups and opportunities to weigh in. We'll be looking to do some of those this spring and summer to just start to get a sense of what the community really wants in all of its schools, including the high school. And then finally, there's a building committee that will be formed this summer. And there are some prescribed seats on that committee. So there have to be people who work with the facilities. There has to be at least one person from the school committee. There has to be the city manager, or in our case, the mayor.
Mayor, yeah.
So there are lots of seats that are prescribed, but there's room for community members, and there's a real need for community members. So hopefully we'll get great interest, and we'll get people who will join and formally engage, not just through reading our newsletters and taking our surveys, but by rolling up their sleeves and being part of the committee.
Yeah, no, that's great. We welcome any ideas and thoughts, and if you're interested, feel free to email me. And if you're interested in the building committee or other ways of supporting, there'll be a lot of opportunities for engagement in the coming years. So, well, I think those are many of the questions we had. Is there anything that that we didn't talk about that you think is relevant related to this project and this exciting news for the city?
No, I think we've covered it, although I hope that in this lovely studio on this inaugural episode, we've conveyed the excitement and the opportunity for this community. I think it's going to be amazing for the Salem students.
No question. It's there's definitely some a lot of enthusiasm, and there should be, about what this could represent. I mean, it's really a way to position this city and our school system for many, many years to come. And as a city, we should all be very excited. It's a lot of work. We got to roll up our sleeves, but the design opportunities to do something, innovative, bold, and future-oriented is truly exciting. So.